Welcome back to Heads Up SA. If you are new to the channel, welcome to the family, and please press that subscribe button and hit the notification bell to get updated every time when we upload. In today's video, we are going to talk about Mmusi Maimane's party BOSA Build One South Africa. As Parliament prepares to consider the 2025-2026 national budget next week, Build One South Africa confirms that they have been approached by the ANC requesting a meeting on the matter. It is also noted that other parties outside the GNU, including the EFF, MK and Action SA, have been engaged in similar discussions. BOSA, Mmusi Maimane's party, claims that they want to be absolutely clear that they will only support a budget that serves the best interest of the people of South Africa. Negotiations about the budget cannot be transactional or bilateral. Only an agreement that addresses the pains of citizens will be accepted by BOSA. In a press letter that was not only leaked on Twitter, posted by themselves on Twitter, it said, BOSA has decided to engage in negotiations based on the following key fiscal reforms. Number one, size of government. They say they want the government to freeze middle and upper management hiring, reduce unnecessary expenditure on inflated bureaucracy. I don't have much to say about that because it's kind of like a message that has been spreading around. Now, point B under number one, which is size of government, they also say that reduce cabinet size, which I also feel like it should have fallen under A because it's also a matter of reducing unnecessary expenditure. They also say that the government must establish a lean, efficient and accountable executive. Okay, I don't think that's a point to be brought into the table for negotiations because I think we are clearly talking about the budget here. So I believe that political parties who are invited to discuss this budget should actually focus on practical things, not on political agendas, because it kind of feels like a political agenda to say accountable executive. What do you mean? Hire accountants? Say so then, hire accountants, you know? Like audits, do regular audits if that's what you wanted to say. Let's get an independent audit rather than the one we have. Now, point C, streamline administrative and executive costs in provincial government, cut wasteful expenditure and redirect resources to service delivery. There we go again with prolonging point A. The word expenditure comes up again. Wasteful expenditure. If you go back to point A, it said unnecessary expenditure. This is what I don't like sometimes with politicians when they prolong a short statement. You could have just put it simple, but you decided to make it a long statement that's gonna make you sound, I don't know like a smart or more like a politician. I don't know. And then we have point D. D says close unnecessary diplomatic missions. Rationalize foreign representation to align with national priorities. I don't really understand what that means. It will take an interview with Mr. Mmusi Maimane to actually understand what he just said there. Another thing that made me laugh was the first comment on the post. The guy said what I was thinking. It was like, you are telling us as the public these points on Twitter when you should be going to the meeting and discussing, then come back and tell us what you deliberated on the meeting, because I don't see the point of telling us on Twitter. Like, what are we going to do about that? Because we're not going to be on the table negotiating. Number two, government expenditure. I don't know if it's just me, guys, or you guys follow. If you follow, expenditure is probably appearing for the 5th or 4th time now. And then that means this was a short statement that was prolonged, as I said. But let's go ahead. Point A, they say reduce state-owned enterprise bailouts and the culture of rewarding inefficiency and mismanagement with public funds. You know, when he says reduce state-owned enterprise bailouts, I first read it and I didn't grasp the gist of it. But now I totally understand that actually that statement I'm opposed I'm opposing it because there's companies like SAPC, because I know they're looking at Transnet, they're looking at SAA, they're looking at all these other state-owned enterprises, but there's also other state-owned enterprises like SAPC, which are actually given the mandate to actually broadcast the news and inform people at the right time. And then now, if you say, let's reduce the bailouts from SAPC, that means we may have to compromise the ability of the news the news team to actually be where they're supposed to be at the right time, to have the resources to cover the news. And I don't think we want to have a country that is like that. But anyway, you tell me on the comments, what do you guys think? Let's go to point B. Abolish VIP protection for politicians. I also got a problem with that. Like, I really got a problem with that. Like, how do you expect your leaders to be not fully compromised now that they don't have security? Because you understand, if a minister who has information that cannot be like a security clearance, you know what I mean? The security clearance, someone who has a security clearance cannot be left unguarded, because there's a lot of criminals out there who want to use the state information against you as the citizen. Maybe they want to hack into your accounts, maybe they want to use your data for something else, and then they need a minister of home affairs, and then the minister of home affairs is roaming around solo. Think about that. Like, does it make sense, or am I whining? Let me know in the comments. And it also says, end wasteful spending on elite security while ordinary citizens live in fear of a crime. I guess he's also explaining that line of abolishing VIP protection for politicians. That word was chosen carefully, because if he said for members of parliament, it would have made my point, given my point even more weight, because I think he did think about it too. Like, if he says members of parliament, or I mean, not members of parliament, my bad. If he said ministers, because now it comes with putting their responsibility, their lives at danger, of course, because of their responsibilities to the public. Now let's move on to point C. Point C says, reform the Road Accident Fund, the RAF. Ensure financial sustainability and fair compensation practices. I totally understand. There's a whole lot of corruption that is going on with the RAF, with the Road Accident Fund funding. Like, there's lawyers who are running scams out here. Like, you fall off in a basketball court, and then they meet you in the hospital, and they want you to write a statement that you got hit by a car. There's such corruption going on in that sector. So I believe, I don't know about the word reform, I believe with the investigation first, and then maybe debate on the findouts of the investigation, whether we reform or what direction is being taken. But something has to be done. So let's move on to point D. And government funding of setters, skill education, training authorities should be privately funded. Now, I have a problem with that. If the government doesn't have the power to provide skills, training to its citizens, and then outsource that service to the private sector, and then promise that they're going to give these citizens work, what if the government knows that, for example, making an example, right? The government knows that we're going to need more civil engineers in the next 5 years, based on a research that has been done by certain experts of the economics, right? Because, you know, they get experts to brief the president, to brief the ministers. So what if they know that we're going to need more civil engineers? You mean now the government shouldn't have power to actually fund such training to citizens so that they can be able to get those jobs that the government has been promising? You see where it doesn't make sense. Now, beyond cost cutting, BOSA firmly believes that South Africa needs a bold and ambitious pro-growth agenda. We can call on the GNU to adopt growth charter that targets 5% economic growth rate within the next 3 years. This charter must include, as they explained before we go there. You know, I always hear people who are not in the government. What they do is they easily throw numbers out there like, we can get a 5% growth within 3 years. Like, I don't think it's simple like that. I don't think it's simple like that. I don't think you just tick those boxes that are unchecked and then you get a 5% growth. It takes policies being passed, these committees agreeing to certain ways of operation, you know, like all those things. Political parties voting on certain decisions that are being taken that are going to drive the direction. All those things, they take time, and as they take time, they also impact the percentage of the growth per annum. So if you say we're going to take it to 5% in 3 years, we better have discovered something that we didn't have, like Colbert mine or something, you know. Anyway, I'm not an economist and I don't know anything about economics, guys. Just whiling, doing my political commentary on Heads Up SA. If you forgot, please press that subscribe button and don't forget to comment below. Now, they say this charter that they are talking about, they're calling it the growth charter, must include point number A. I'm gonna say A because they put dots there. Ease of doing business reforms, reduce red tape and regulatory burdens to attract investment. Now, I don't know, like maybe it's because the people who are funding these political parties, BOSA, this is their agenda now. It's showing out when they are engaging on what they are fighting for in parliament. Because remember, USA, for example, most businesses cannot get themselves licensed in US to operate because the US has a strict system that checks whether you are legitimate or not. And that system is called a regulatory system. And then here in this BOSA letter, they decided to call it regulatory burdens. Burdens to who? Burdens to these corrupt companies that come to your country and exploit the people because of the lack of regulatory, right? Remember, when we're talking about regulatory, we're talking about your rights. Like the company has to follow certain regulations that protect the workers of the company. So if we say, no, the country must reduce the red tape on the regulatory, we are also saying that, yeah, the company should have a right to say no union in this company. That's what I'm talking about. That's what he is saying. You let me know what you think. They say it will attract investment. You mean more crooks? Okay, let's go ahead. Point B, as I said, infrastructure investment. Prioritize energy, transport, and digital infrastructure to boost economic productivity. No one disagrees with that. Infrastructure investment is what even the leading party will just nod to that, like it's a general statement. Now, point D, it says support of SMMEs and entrepreneurs, provide targeted incentives and reduce barriers to entry for small businesses. You know, when they say support for SMMEs and entrepreneurs, I think the support of SMMEs is there but not visible because the ANC has done a bad job at publicizing the programs they have, these entrepreneurial workshops and all the stuff that they do, because there is things they do. It's just that they are doing a very bad job at publicizing them, and it could be intentional, which I cannot believe that. I cannot believe it is. Now, let's go to the last point where they say labor market reform. Create a more flexible and competitive labor market that encourages job creation. Create a more flexible and competitive labor market. Isn't it obvious? Isn't it obvious that even the Minister of Finance, the President says that too? Because you know what this is why I think most of the South Africans don't like Cyril Ramaphosa. He says what needs to be done, doesn't do it. He says what needs to be done, and he says what you are saying it needs to be done, but he's been a president for past 8 years, if I'm correct, or more, but he hasn't done any of the things that needs to be done. So yeah, that was the letter from BOSA. And BOSA, they say that they claim that they are committed to constructive dialogue that delivers real change for South Africans. And they will approach these discussions with the intent to find agreements that create new jobs, reduce the cost of living, and build a more accountable and efficient government. Sounds like a Ramaphosa speech, but yeah, that's what they say. So I guess, I don't know, I'm sensing a vote that the ANC, they have it in the bag here. I don't think BOSA will be difficult, because a lot of things that they are saying, they sounded like a Ramaphosa speech. So you guys let me know. Tell me what you think. Hit us up on the comment. Hit that like button. And don't forget to check us out, as we are going to drop more and more and more. We apologize for disappearing for a while, but we're back to stay consistent on this platform. Keep your heads up, SA.